Everywhere I look on LinkedIn, it seems like everyone and their mother is calling themselves a thought leader on LinkedIn, and I thought we could talk about it today. I mean, if everyone is a thought leader, is anyone? But wait, Lauren, hold on. Back up a little bit, homegirl. I don't even know what that is. I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. I've never heard of it, and I don't know what it is. So let me offer a brief explanation. This is actually coming from Forbes from a 2023 article called What It Really Means and Takes to Become a Thought Leader. Also, apologies in advance. My dog is on the floor playing with his toys behind me, so if you hear background noises, Barry's just having a good time. Forbes describes a thought leader as one of the foremost authorities in selected areas of specialization, resulting in its being the go-to individual or organization for said expertise. Now, that all sounds really well and good, but Lauren, girl, how does one become a thought leader? Excellent question. Forbes also covers that question. In order to become a thought leader, Forbes says that you need to create a steady flow of thought-provoking, relevant content on your channels using a consistent voice that's confident, persuasive, and credible. Now, it seems like there's to me at least, it seems like there's a bit of a disconnect between the definition that they gave, which is authorities, foremost authorities in selected fields of expertise or specialization, but yet all you got to do to become one is create consistent content with a good branded voice. However, the word that I do think distinguishes this that they used is the very last one, and that's credible. I think credibility automatically assumes there's some amount of weight to a person, an idea, a topic, a notion, a perspective, whatever. And I think that's kind of the distinguishing factor, which is, do you have credibility? And credibility can look like different things. You know, maybe it's who's in your network. Maybe it's your accomplishments. Maybe it's your education. I really don't know. I think we're starting to get a little subjective there. But I do feel like regardless of this definition, it has kind of lost its meaning a little bit over the years. I do think it's become a little diluted. The first time I heard thought leader, just the term in general, was a few years ago. And the first time I heard it, I remember thinking like, whoa, that sounds really cool. Like, I want to be one of those. It's got the same sort of pizzazz to it as like mastermind or something like that. And if you don't know what that is, that's like a group of thought leaders, a lot of very well-connected people who've got a lot of weight and credibility and experience, and they're usually pretty darn high ticket, like 5-figure entry fees for like a 1-year thing. People can kind of like get together, brainstorm ideas, and come up with challenges and all that stuff. So that's what a mastermind is. But it's got that same sort of initial spark to it, you know, that really gets people's attention, like, ooh, a thought leader, what is that? But it's become so overused, and similar to, you know, how movies nowadays are made in Hollywood, it just seems like it's like people are calling themselves a leader by just taking something that was original and repackaging it in a different type of wrapping. I mean, you got Wicked, you got Sonic, you've got Willy Wonka, you've got Mufasa. Like, these are all things that have already been done, but they're continuing to be recycled because, I don't know, people are in for clicks, cash grabs. I mean, I don't know. But I think generally it has lost some of its weight. Now, in my biased, humble opinion, I feel like the title of thought leader, shouldn't that more be something that is given to you rather than something that you self-proclaim? I mean, like, one example that I'm thinking of right now is Simon Sinek's TED Talk called Start With Why. I mean, it was such a cool idea. I mean, genuinely, I'm a fan of Simon Sinek, but if you haven't watched that TED Talk, please feel free. I believe it is called Start With Why. And it's this notion that to get anyone on board with you, with whatever you do, if it's a product, if it's a service, if it's a brand or whatever, start with why. Be like, this is what we do. I think you branch out to how, which is, okay, here's the method behind our madness. And then finally you expand to what, I believe. I think that's what it is. Why, how, what. So it starts like, oh, this is why we do what we do. This is how we do it. Wouldn't it be great if you had something at your fingertips that did that? Let me introduce you to blank, or whatever the item is, whatever the service is. And it was such a cool idea. In fact, it's one of the most watched TED Talks of all time, at least to my knowledge. I mean, I don't know for sure, but it's a very, very popular TED Talk. And this is a conversation that went viral, right? It caught people's attention. Like, wow, I had never really thought about it like that before. And he's really, he's earned a lot of weight and credibility just from the work that he's done, and this TED Talk that he gave, and the content in which he gave the TED Talk. Like, the stuff that the actual content that he was giving, it was valuable. And when like Joe in sales on LinkedIn is calling himself a thought leader, and he's got like 1,000, 2,000 followers or something like that, without offering any real value, it just seems like it's more of a trend rather than a title. So, this leads me really well into what does it take to become a thought leader? I mean, yes, I agree with Forbes that, if you want to build up your credibility and your following and all that stuff, yeah, post consistently with a solid branded voice, that's all well and good. But I think I mean, it's like eating your vegetables or going for a run or something. It's like the fastest way to do it is to just do it. Bring something new to the table. What do you have to offer that maybe isn't being considered right now? Or my favorite alternative too is, what idea do you have that you're a little bit scared to bring up? Maybe it's going to rock the boat a little bit. Maybe it's going to get a little bit of, maybe there's a little bit of controversy around it. Like either way, it's a discussion starter. And in the age of social media, any attention is good attention. But for me, it's so attractive to come across someone who is taking risks or is challenging the status quo or is afraid of what someone might think of them, because it's someone to root for, right? Barry's standing right next to me. This is our new puppy, by the way. I don't mean to get off topic, but he wants to be part of the conversation. But right, it's kind of pushing boundaries. It's pushing the narrative a little bit, and everyone loves rooting for someone like that because they're new. It's like everyone reads a book with a main character who's got something to say. Like everyone reads books for that reason. They're not always likable, but they do bring something new. But it's like, if people ask, oh, how do I get healthy? It's like, eat your vegetables, go on a walk every once in a while. And everyone does anything but that. I feel like there can be some comparisons drawn to, oh, how can I become a thought leader? Give some really good, valuable content that people like. It answers questions. It gets people curious. Maybe it's a really good story with a very particular point that you're making. I feel like when everything is so accessible through social media and all these digital apps and stuff, it does kind of become more a matter of quantity than it is quality, where people are posting just to post, I feel like, and then, call that thought leadership. But, if you have to post and engage and interact at such a fast rate, you can't always come up with these new fascinating, earth-shattering ideas. Like, you have to repurpose and repackage something that someone else before you probably said. So, it's hard to do, but I am personally always a fan of quality over quantity, and I think if you ever want to stand out, you do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. Hence my definition of thought leadership. Do I want to be a thought leader? No, I don't really care about that. I'm just here to get a good conversation going with some really great people like yourself. So, this is not like a title I'm trying to earn for myself. I'm not trying to like bring attention over to myself or anything. But, it's just something that just kind of bugs me where, there's all these cheap theatrics when it comes to presenting yourself online and building a digital brand and all that stuff. The ultimate goal should be the impact that you're creating. What value are you bringing? This is not, a party for you or your ego. I think the notoriety and the credibility and the money and the prestige, I think that's a side effect of you doing your work, which is providing good, valuable content that truly resonates with people and might solve some of their problems or, might help them feel seen or heard, because people always want to feel seen and heard. So my question to you is whether or not you want to be a thought leader with whatever you do, whatever you make, whatever you do in this world. What real value are you offering? And I don't mean that as like a disrespectful jab or anything like, what authority do you have? No, but just whether it's large or small, whether you're a business owner or not, whether you're someone who does woodworking or likes reading or writes a book or is teaching for a living, how are you helping someone else? Good leadership, good, public figures and all of that, I think it just stems from just listening, man, and just absorbing and hearing what other people have to say, coming up with your own little spin on it, and then having the courage to verbalize it. It all comes down to show, don't tell, right? If your work is meaningful and it's beneficial, that stuff's naturally going to find a way to rise to the top. All of the good stuff will always find a way to rise to the top. Get your ideas out there, say what needs to be said, get a conversation going. I did that initially with books where I was wanting to have more open, honest conversations, in the book space and, in publishing and stuff, because these are all things that aren't always talked about, maybe because they're a little taboo, maybe because they're a little bit uncomfortable for people, maybe there's some harsh realities that people don't want to acknowledge, but, in my case, because I talked about books for so long, that's one of the things that I wanted to do, and I'm sure it didn't always show me in the best light, but hey, it benefited you guys. Hopefully, at least I've gotten a lot of, positive feedback and good conversations going, but really, I love nothing more than a good conversation, so if you've got something new to bring to the table, by all means, I'll give you my attention and call you a thought leader, So anyway, that's all I have. I hope you got something out of this video. I don't really have any solutions or anything other than, the perspectives that I shared there toward the end. But I hope you got something out of this. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. If you're into this kind of stuff, you might want to consider subscribing to my newsletter. I just recently started it. So if you want to keep the conversation going over there, please feel free. I'll drop the links and stuff in the description. But otherwise, that is all I have. Barry, is there anything else that you want to say? Is there anything else you want to say? Here, wave people bye. Okay, bye. Subscribe.